5, 6, 7. So we're good to go.
Correct.
And who are we missing? We're missing Irina, and we're missing the Chaffins. Anybody else?
That's going to take it now. That's right there.
And James, and I believe that's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I think we're good to go. Welcome to everybody. Can everybody hear and see okay?
Yeah.
Good, good. I'm sort of jealous of Miles. He looks like he's really comfortable. Can you talk, Miles? Are you muted? I think you might be muted.
How's it now?
Yeah, good, good. Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here on this evening and for all the work that many of you have done since I saw you last. And I was also going to say, I really don't have jaundice. It's the lamp in this study that I can't seem to get to change. So I'm yellow. I don't know if I'm mellow yellow, but I'm mellow. All right. So I made a couple, and Matt, it's nice to have you there. I appreciate all the support that you have been giving us all along. Matt?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have, I think, an agenda that we can manage tonight. Rob has kindly agreed to help me manage the time frames a little better. And I also talked with Karen about timing things out a little more efficiently. So hopefully everybody will feel satisfied with that by the time we get to the end of our meeting. And Ruth, I was going to tell you just quickly that I put you as a kind of item 6A on the agenda, just so you know. I'm sorry?
That is a perfect spot.
Oh, thank you. All right. And so I mentioned that we're going to have Rob as a timekeeper, which I think will be really helpful, although I imagine we'll probably, oh yeah, he's got his pad. And everybody gets an electric shock if they go too long. And I was also going to say, Matt, I was thinking that one of the challenges that we have sometimes is that we have issues that are brought up that we don't always get to follow through on. And they may not be appropriate at the exact time when they're brought up, but they might need to be followed up on. Or clever ideas that we don't want to forget. And so I was going to ask you, Matt, if we could create a parking lot so that whenever something comes up that's kind of out of the purview of our immediate doings but needs not to be lost, that we could capture it on that parking lot.
Great idea.
Matt, is that something you can help us with?
Yes, as I'm taking notes for the meeting, it's generally just, motions and kind of, it's generally just motions, because that's the most important part of the minutes. But if there's something that we want or the group wants to, make a note of, just say, hey, Matt, please write this down if there's kind of group consensus.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be part of the minutes necessarily. I'd just like to make sure we have it documented somewhere.
Right.
Okay. Excellent.
And also, and Sasha, I was going to just jump in. Can everyone see the agenda?
Yes.
I'm sharing my screen. So this is the way that committee and commission agendas are going to look now. You might say, some of you might have gone, what is up with this? But it's really just, and this can also be used to help take notes during the meeting as well. And this won't always be required, but it could be really helpful in kind of keeping the agenda items organized and the follow through, if any follow through is needed with recommendations to council or sending over to another committee or just, so this should help us.
And I think we'll be able to utilize one or two of those today, I hope. And so actually the first thing we need to do is we need to call this meeting to order. Sasha forgot, and it is 6:09. So this is officially the call to order. Do we have any citizen comments? No, not at this time. I wonder where Terry is. Hopefully we'll hear from him. So we need to be looking at the minutes for this meeting next. And are you able to bring those up, Matt? Yes, you are. There they are. And shall we give everybody a minute to read them over, or have you already done that? By your silence?
There were a lot of motions, but pretty much they were all related to all those various budgets that we managed to get through last meeting.
Yeah. Get through, or somebody got through them. I'm not sure who. Any commentaries on the minutes or anything we need to change?
Good job, Matt.
Yay!
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
I definitely do, no question about it. He keeps me honest, which is a very good thing to do, because you never know what stories I might tell without even being aware of it. So can I hear a motion to approve the minutes as they stand?
I will, oh, there's Rob, good.
I'll make a
I'll
motion to approve the minutes. as
Okay,
available. Yeah.
all right, thank you, Rob. Do I have a second? John, all right. So motion carries, and we have now got approved minutes from the last meeting. Yes,
Oh,
Rob?
Do we have to vote? Or is that a non-voting thing?
Yeah, we had,
Oh, of course we have to vote. Of course we have to vote, sorry. Okay, all in favor?
Say ice cream.
Aye.
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 An
All right.
aye.
motion
Okay.
passes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Rob. Just forget the evident, why don't you, right? Me. Okay, so now we are going to be hearing from Karen about the city council and what has been happening there.
Okay, hi, everybody. Not much
Karen, we
to,
can't really see you.
sorry.
There you go. That's okay.
There she is.
Not a whole lot to report related to the Arts Commission. Our last council meeting was almost totally dedicated to the rezoning on Stearns Lane. So most of our other topics for the meeting got tabled until the meeting coming up. But I did want to bring up the budget schedule for everybody to be aware of. On 7/30, the Budget and Finance Committee sends their recommended budget to the mayor. On August 12th, the mayor files her budget. On August 18th, the budget is presented to council. On September 1st is the public hearing on the budget. And September 22nd is the budget approval. So just wanted to have everybody have those. Yep, and it's online too. But if you couldn't find it online, those are the important dates to keep in mind. And that's really all I have, unless somebody has any questions.
Point of information.
Yes, Ruth. Ruth?
So the one that we really need to have it taken would be September 1. Is that right, Karen? In terms of our being able to participate.
Actually, I think once the mayor files her budget, you see what finance recommends to the mayor. And the mayor, before she files her budget, you might want to reach out to her if there's something you'd rather see. Budget and finance has taken a very conservative track with really only looking at essential services and bronze budgets. I haven't seen them so far, and Sylvia, I see you're here, maybe they have, but I haven't heard them recommend anything other than bronze. So they're going to be presenting a bare bones budget to the mayor, and it'll be up to the mayor to put the close on the budget. And then that would be a good time to reach out to the mayor. Finance and budget has approved or for recommendation the bronze budget for your art fest. So if you want silver or gold, the mayor's the person to talk to see if you can make that happen. And then when it goes to council, you want to reach out to your council members with your thoughts, and you can speak on September 1st in the public hearing for whatever you want to advocate for, and then the final approval is on the 22nd. So all those dates are pretty important.
Okay, so as soon as we're able to see it all would be August 5th then?
Actually, on July 30th, you can see the budget that Finance and Budget Committee is recommending to the mayor. And then the mayor has until August 12th to put her budget together. So I'd say between the 30th and the 12th, you might want to reach out to the mayor.
Okay.
So we're going to, in OpenGov, once Budget and Finance Committee finishes in OpenGov, actually it may post as early as tonight. We have the draft budget as it's been developed, so folks can go in and drill down. I'll be perfectly honest with you, with the revenue estimates that we had, there's probably less than $20,000 of any room in the general fund. So we're trying to get really creative within the other funds, and that is with a very, very aggressive revenue estimate. I mean, we're projecting, actually not even aggressive enough, I don't think. We're projecting a 25% revenue decrease, but those revenues go across the board. It doesn't just impact the general fund. So some of the comments the committees will be struggling with, and also the Budget and Finance Committee and the mayor and the council, is how much is an appropriate amount of reserves to draw down, if there's an appropriate amount of reserves. And then what is our, obviously our contingency staffing plan, as we need to staff up during specific times of the year and then be able to ratchet back down, how we're going to end up doing all of that within the confines of the budget. So I expect for the community to be able to see, because Budget and Finance is probably about 75% done. We've got 2 dates for bring back items in the next couple of meetings. Tomorrow they'll be going through projects that Public Works and Planning and Environmental have already recommended. So it's a matter of being able to address some of the concerns, and that's always going to revolve around staff resources to complete those items. And nobody has any commentary on utility rates, whether we are increasing or decreasing subsidies. I can tell you everybody is really, really, really holding the line on the fact that, you know, our residents and folks have been affected with work and everything else. We don't want to take another hit in the pocketbook for rates. And once the mayor files the budget, Karen's right, it is a very bare bones budget. We are really punting it to her and the council to make those decisions that also match what they spoke about in retreat last year, that what was important to the residents, what was important to the city actually get accomplished. So.
Yep, that's it. Thanks, Sylvia. Thanks, everybody. Oh, Rob?
Yeah, so I was listening, and then it sounded like everything related to hot funds was going to get like approved, and I'm like, okay, that's good, and then kind of stopped following, and then afterwards it seemed like nothing got, well, we got like enough to kind of have a
George,
a level. Nobody else got anything. Like, what exactly happened? Like, what is the short version of what happened between when I just turned off the meeting and, you know?
Well, the short version is, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Budget
go ahead, Karen.
Finance approved a recommendation for the bronze hot fund budget for Art Fest. The general fund has not been considered yet by Budget and Finance. And then the short version is that goes to the mayor, and then it's up to her to figure out what she wants to add or subtract.
And I think there was, from what it sounded like, it was like hot funds are not dedicated, like they can't be spent on like, you know, paying like salaries or like fixing roads and stuff like that. Like they're targeted for something. So I think the original thought was maybe like, hey, when that money's gone, it's just gone. So just like spend it because like that's what it's for. And then all of a sudden it was gone. I had one other thing on my mind about that, but like, am I correct about that?
Yeah, the hot funds is restricted fund, and it's restricted to the use for the Arts Commission purposes for cultural tourism.
Yeah.
And for bringing people into our city from outside of our city. So the CED committee uses it for marketing, and the marketing RFP that's already been approved in this year's budget, which is $230,000, will be held to pay for the contract with the marketing firm. So they're right off the top of the reserve is the $230,000. So we have a reserve of 650 some thousand. All the other requests are going to come out of that because there's not much coming out of the hotel right now. We have one hotel and they're pretty much not functioning.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think the last bit was in the back of my mind when it seemed like, hey, we're going to freeze a lot of this. Is there anything on that hot fund that says if it's not, that this goes back to the thing with the barn or whatever, if that money doesn't get spent in a certain amount of time, I mean, I know it's just like more of like a bucket and not just like a lump sum that's just like, this is from this year, this is from this year. If we don't spend some of that, like, will that have to go back to the hotel or anything, or is that just in there?
No, it stays in the hot fund, in the restricted hot fund. And the reserves are monies that we've had extra each year that the city council voted for years ago to put aside some money each year from the annual income, which the annual income runs about $250,000 a year in a good year.
Okay.
And this year is not a good year. So we're going to have to lean on reserves if we want to fund the things that we want to fund.
Okay.
For the city.
That was all. Thank you.
And actually, Rob, to answer your question, to me, it was an amazing turnaround during the Budget and Finance meeting, because first it was, oh yeah, let's go ahead and fund all of this, no problem. And then 5 minutes later, due to, I don't know, some numerical frustration or who knows what, there was a total reversal of opinion on that. And, oh, let's just do this one at bronze. And I really didn't understand the rationale other than some, it seemed to me, frustration and fatigue on the part of the members.
Very methodical.
If you're a monkey, you know. I shouldn't say something like that, excuse me. Yes, Miles.
I'd like to add that you were right, Sasha, the way that all of a sudden it just switched. And but there was an expression by someone on the committee, the Budget and Finance Committee, that, well, if revenues pick up at the stores, we can always give money later. We can refund things later on. I did hear that expressed. And specifically, someone said, with Art Fest, well, it doesn't take a whole year to plan. Maybe we can give more money later on. Now, that was the perception of an individual or many individuals in the Budget and Finance Committee. Nonetheless, they've already made their decision at this step, and then I guess they don't go back to give any other recommendations. So we really are looking at those deadlines with the mayor and city council anyway.
Right. Good point. So does everybody have the dates down clearly? Let's see what we can do. I can send an email to everybody kind of reiterating the dates, because those are important dates for you to be aware of and to know when you get an opportunity to give input.
And just to be clear, the hot funds are hotel occupancy taxes. So it's very different from the store's sales tax revenue. So they're two very different things. The sales tax revenue from our retail outlets and restaurants funds the general fund. The hot fund is funded by one hotel, and they don't mix.
Right. Well, yeah, one hotel, and I believe there's 2 vacation rental properties that also pay. And we had the hotel manager or owner came in today, and he's like, you know, he made a small contribution to what he owes in taxes, and I asked him how business was doing, and he said they're operating at 15%. So they are at 15% occupancy right now. Better than none, where they were, you know, a few months ago, but they're still at very, you know, minimal occupancy.
Matt,
Yes.
isn't it typical he usually goes between 80 to 85?
Yes.
occupancy?
He said, like, right now he would be at, normally in July he would be at 85% occupancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, Sasha, too, this discussion moved us quite nicely into agenda item 5,
Yes.
where we were going to
That's
talk
right.
about the budget. So I guess we're already at number 5.
Yeah, so I think what we could do is we could use the new structure here to basically look at, there are kind of different stages of strategies for when to communicate to whom. And it seems like the first strategy that we could undertake if we chose to would be to be in touch with the mayor prior to the date, so between the 30th and August 12th. So we could put that as a strategy that we could take on under the action approved if we wanted. I'm just trying to see about how we integrate these particular things into our dialogues. Thoughts about that? Oh, is someone thinking something crazy? Matt, it's gotten small for people to see. I mean, I can see it because I have it written, but I don't know if everybody else can see that.
Yeah, I switched over to Word, so if I wanted to type something, let me see.
Oh, I see. Okay. So, yeah, I guess we discussed how the whole thing happened. And I think that in terms of strategies, we really need to stage them out, because it would be kind of inappropriate to start working on community support when, you know, we haven't even seen what the mayor's budget is or will be. So would you be interested in saying, let's have that be our first step?
Definitely, we need a strategy that rolls out the support between now and when would be the final time for a community input? Would be the August 6th, right? Would that be the date?
Let's see, I wrote down the dates here.
Actually, September 1st is the public hearing.
Okay,
Right.
so now it's September 1st, because we already want the community's support prior to public hearing. So, and the forms that we have would be the community Facebook page of Sunset Valley residents, our individual emails and texts to our friends, emailing directly to council members and the mayor. And I'm thinking it wouldn't hurt to follow the lead of CED. If you saw on the Sunset Valley resident Facebook page, there was a letter posted there crafted by Clayton Ross Ponder, and I helped to just encourage everyone to go out and shop and support our local stores rather than everywhere else in Austin. And I was wondering if there would be some kind of a neat little way we could post a picture to our Sunset Valley residents page of a past Art Fest with somebody saying, remember this? I can't wait till we're done with COVID and can start enjoying community festivities like Art Fest. You know, something along that. Pictures are 1,000 words. And if between now and September 1, if we could, you know, once a week have somebody post to the Facebook page a picture and a comment of how special Art Fest was to them. It was so cool that my friends came out of town to see me and I had an event within my own city that I could take them to or something along that line. So personal testimonies are huge, especially when there's a picture. Those are very powerful. So those are just my thoughts initially thinking about it.
So, but the end result of that is that we want people to see that, and then the call to action is contact Rose or city council members, correct?
Right? Or we could say, you know, get online on September 1 for the public, public hearing, or just go, we could even say go to OpenGov and leave a statement, because soon as that September 1 event is posted on OpenGov, there will be room to put statements that go along with that event.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Encourage them to go to OpenGov and put your statement there, or show up on September 1 live, or right now email council members and mayor, that kind of stuff. That's very good. What's the call to action on that? Definitely it's communication with powers that be.
The Sasha's having some technical difficulties. She's trying to get back in. Just texted me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I want the end result, but I think we should avoid emailing people. You also don't want to piss them off, pardon. But also, like, yeah, leave something on the forum. I feel like sometimes it's just like, hey, go tell it over here so that we don't have to listen to it. So what I did at the Budget and Finance Committee was I read my statement and then I posted it. I don't know if that's technically allowed, but it's just like, you know, I don't want to play by the rules and then like never get heard. So it's just like I kind of double dip there. So start drafting up your stuff now. I started my draft like 2 weeks out because I knew day of I wasn't going to have enough time to get it together. So
I think that was effective, Rob, that you read your letter and then posted it. I think council is a little more active with looking at the statements than some of our committees are. They haven't quite gotten used to using that yet, but I know as a council member, I read all of those.
excellent. Thank you.
So as a council member, Karen, what do you find to be the most powerful, most impactful communication to you? When someone bothers to show up for a meeting, when somebody emails you, when somebody posts something on OpenGov, see it on social media, what for you, you're who we're getting to. Tell us what works.
Yeah, so I mean, usually people send me an email and they post it on OpenGov. The emails can be kind of onerous. Like sometimes we get a whole lot, but I'm happy to get emails. But OpenGov is good because it goes in the record. When you send council an email, it doesn't necessarily get seen by everyone. When you post it in OpenGov, the whole community sees that, and I think that's really impactful.
Okay.
I'd say like you can, I mean, it matters in a very kind of symbolic way, but you can support statements in there also. You can only do 5, so choose wisely. But I mean, we should kind of make it like an echo chamber where it's just like, you know, Ruth, you call something out and I'm like, dang right. And then I post mine and Ruth's like, hell yeah. So there's a little support button at the bottom of each statement.
So do we want to just do our own thing, or do we want to try to coordinate? Like, are we primarily going to focus on getting the silver or gold Art Fest? Are we looking for all across the Art Commission general and hot funds? What do you think we need to focus on?
Me? Or is that just a general question?
Any of y'all.
I think we should go, I think we should aim for the gold. Aim for the gold and be happy with what we get.
Okay, and not bring up general funds on other items, just focus on the Art Fest monies, both the general hot fund, general and hot fund for the Art Fest, or just I just don't want to see us sounding like we don't agree. I want us to come out with one voice.
Well, one moment.
What's your opinion, Sasha? Do you see that we should primarily champion the hot funds for the Art Fest, or both general and hot funds, or everything the Art Commission put out there?
You're
You're
muted.
muted, Sasha.
Is this better?
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer just never has done this before, but it did it today and just totally froze up. I was about to be accusing Ruth of giving bad connectivity, and it was my computer that was crashing, so I'm on my iPad. But to answer your question, I definitely think that we should be advocating for the hot funds, and I don't see why not toss in the general funds as well. That would be my thought about it.
So focusing on the Art Fest, both funds, and not any of the other Art Commission issues, just focus on the Art Fest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, because we, you know, the budget was all over. And from what I'm hearing from the commission just now is we seem to be most concerned about the Art Fest. So do we want to focus so we have one voice, and we don't want them to hear one person pull one way, one person pull another. We should really hone in a target and all go for it from different angles.
I have a question for Sylvia. You said that it looked like we were only going to have 20,000 in general. So what's included? Is that employees too? If we need to bring employees back on?
That's with no additional employees.
As this is.
Sorry?
That's with no additional employees. That's the bronze budget.
So weren't we talking about bringing some employees on at times? And that would also be coming out of the 20,000, right?
Yep, so the committee has made some recommendations. Actually, all of the committees have made some recommendations, and it's made its way onto a parking lot. These are side items that everybody wants to have funded. And those are the things the mayor's going to be looking at when the budget is turned over to her.
And this also would include any of the public works projects too, like street repair or anything, right?
No, well,
that's a different fund, isn't it?
Yeah, some of those are in different funds. I mean, we've tried to be as elastic as possible, spreading cost over all 7 funds as opposed to the 5 original. There was originally some dollars in there for emergency personnel expenses, whether it was a flood or a pandemic or something like that. I think it's made its way still in there. I need to recheck it. But there is also conversation about some programs and services wanting to come back. But without a higher revenue number or a decision on how much is going to be drawn down from fund balance, I don't know how we have that conversation at this point. My job and the Budget and Finance Committee's job is to turn over a balanced budget.
Now, what about something like wildfire mitigation?
Yep. So I want to dispel that rumor. I want to dispel that rumor really quickly because I've been hearing a lot of. In fact, today I got an email that I was causing all kinds of harm to the community. There's various small pots of money within all of the funds that do allow for maintenance of our spaces. It's just not in one giant fund the way it was before, and it's not called out like the American Youth Works, or it's not called out as any of that. What the council and the committees have asked me to do is compare what it would cost to bring back 2 people, or what it would cost to contract out that work, or what it would cost for temporary workers. So I've got to bring back information, and those are some of the conversations the mayor and council are going to have to grapple with.
I think this is getting kind of far off from what we were talking about. I think the question was like, we're going to reach out to city council members and the mayor, and we're going to kind of request more money for what? Do we request more money for the stuff that's currently on the screen, which is kind of like the other things that we do, or do we just focus all of our attention to get our full funding for Arts Commission? So, Art Fest.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to was, if of this 20, what do we figure CED and Arts Commission and whoever else has for doing anything?
So I think really you need to focus on just what you want to ask for the Arts Commission, because it's really going to be up to council and the mayor to look at how much do we want to tap our reserves in general fund and all the other funds. So I don't think that's anything you can solve here. So if you can just decide what you want to advocate for your program.
Right. But I think what Ruth was saying is like, do we put together messages and say, we really want all of our funding back, which can kind of become like, well, yeah, everyone wants everything. Or do we say, we really want Arts Commission, so tailor our messages accordingly? Ruth, is that what you were suggesting?
Right. Do we say our messages? We need to see the Art Fest happen. If all else fails, please just give us more for the Art Fest than the Bronze Budget. And we could, I mean, that seems to be a very focused, specific, lots of images, lots of warm feelings can go with that. We can pull in more people to ride on that with our community. But if that's not what you all agree on, that's my personal opinion. But if you all feel we need to ask for other things within our Art Commission budget we submitted, then I want to hear from you. Do you feel that targeting just to increase the Art Commission's budget in order to make Art Fest happen and do it well next year is what we ought to focus for? Maybe I should make a motion. And then we can vote. I mentioned that we strategize to focus on Art Fest funding increases in the budget to gain community support behind it. And I'm even going to go so far as strategize that Sasha sent out a group email to us that gives a brief explanation of the differences between gold, silver, and bronze, so we can look at that and maybe toss in a couple of our own thoughts, and then we reply in that group and give some of our other strategies, and then we just take all those thoughts and ideas and the language that she gives us for the 3 different budgets and start doing our thing with getting out there on OpenGov, getting out there on social media, and contacting the neighbors and friends we know in the city. That's my motion. And someone can second, we can discuss it.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thanks, John. So what do y'all think? Do we want to just do that? We want to just target in on Art Fest, and we want to get started right now with Sasha pinging off a group email, and we all start gathering ideas on that thread and then go out and do it?
Well, even if we get the silver, that's still a lot better because that gives us a bit more advertising and a little bit of music, which would always be nice.
Silver? I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, but you wanna, I think you go for the gold and you take what you get.
Right. But I'm just saying if we could go for the gold and be happy with silver.
Yep.
That's what I'm actually trying to say, I think.
How much more money is silver? I'm trying hard.
Well, that's just between us, but because I think that the Art
Can someone
Fest,
tell me the number between silver and
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Silver is 56,950. Bronze is 49,937. So there's like a $7,000 difference.
We only want $7,000. That's easy.
And then the gold is 81,000. So
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Karen. Go for the gold and hope we get the silver.
oh, and I believe Terry, are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, did have a question about when the mayor submits her budget, because one strategy, I think you'll probably already talked about it, is that, but if Rose puts it in her budget, restores it to a higher level, that takes away part of the fighting we have to do, because compared to the budget, the finance committee, the BF committee, budget and finance.
So you're saying we should go for the gold and go all the way to the mayor?
I'm saying we talk with the mayor and get her to raise our budget in her budget that she submits. I know that CED last year really benefited from that. They got taken out and she put them back in.
My brain right now is, and we'll do this on the email, but I'm just brainstorming all the essential reasons we need Art Fest, like morale, like community spirit, like goodwill, like, yeah, because we're talking in the spring, and so, but we won't go there now. I know we need to get a strategy.
So to Terry's point, the finance sends their budget to the mayor on the 30th of this month. And then you have between the 30th and the 12th before the mayor submits her budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to send out an email with those various important dates. So Ruth made a motion. Matt, can you read it back? Because it was quite a...
Yeah, and Ruth, please correct me, but this is what I think so there's a motion to strategize on Art Fest funding, the differences between gold, silver, and bronze, and for the commission to go for the gold funding. Sasha will draft an email to get Sasha will draft an email to get the conversation going amongst the commission, but don't violate Open Meetings Act. But then take all the thoughts and ideas and start with community and council engagement. So that's
mayor, community council, and especially mayor.
Yes, the mayor.
Okay, I think the community is important because if the mayor sees a lot of buzz going on the OpenGov statements and on the Facebook page, and then when she gets directed by individuals, then that connects. So
that's good. That's okay. Well, I second the motion if it hasn't been seconded.
John seconded.
I seconded it.
Oh,
but
great.
I do kind of question the Facebook page because we don't want to hit that until we actually have an approved budget, right? And know that we're going to even do an Art Fest.
I think that's just like kind of like generate buzz around it, not actually say like, hey, we're doing it. It's more just.
Right, I don't
want to say astroturfing, but it's kind of an astroturfing thing.
Yeah, more testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So should we vote on that?
Yes. I have a question in regard to the Facebook page. I was confused. I thought you were talking about the neighborhood Sunset Valley Facebook page. That's some mention of it going there.
Page.
Or word or not.
We can do the next door neighbor Sunset Valley too. Why not? Put a picture up there and say, here's something to cheer you up from the good old days. Remember Art Fest? Wasn't it awesome? Throw that up on next door. You can add that to the motion, Matt. You could say, digital media, parentheses, Facebook, next door, OpenGov.
Gotcha.
I think it's important to remember Matt's point. As you communicate with Sasha, don't reply all because that would be a violation of the OpenGovs.
Right.
So just reply back and forth to Sasha only.
And then she'll compile it and get it back to us?
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Whatever it is, for sure. So, okay. Karen, we still can't see you, by the way. You're off the image.
Well, I can't vote, so John's more important.
Oh, okay. All right. So then we've had a first, we've had a motion, we've had a second. Have we had enough discussion that we could go to a vote? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all in favor?
I
Can't see me, but I.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. All right.
Okay, I'll vote it in favor. The motion passes.
Yes. All right. And we'll get more clear on what that means for me exactly. And so that is really about the action approved and the next steps on our budget.
Call me Sasha later.
Okay. Yeah, I think I understood, but I want to be clear. All right. So it looks like, Rob, how are we doing on our timeframes right now?
We're behind by 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. That's not too bad. We're doing well. Thank you all.
I have a technical question, Madam
Yes.
Chair, before we move on. How many official members are there of the Arts Commission?
I think we decided there were 13.
Okay, the reason I ask is I recently took the Attorney General's Open Meetings Act training. And in terms of communicating with each other, if there's with council, there's 5, so only 2 can communicate. Otherwise, they have a quorum. But with 13, that would be 6 people could be on the same email. I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, and if it's 12, then it would.
No, you don't. Yeah, we don't want to go over 6 because it violates the Open Meeting Act.
Right.
If we have 13 official members.
Yeah, I was trying to remember exactly about
At a
that.
time. So that would be 2 emails. Like, in terms of our communicating. I was just encouraging people not just to each of us individually communicate with you, Sasha, because that is really going to slow us down. There can be more than 1 or 2 of us on an email to you. They can be 5 or 6. As long as counting you, there can be 5, and you being the 6th.
Okay.
Okay.
I wonder how we'd control that.
People will have to just pay attention.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Good point, Terry. And by the way, I have been planning on doing it myself, and I haven't yet. But it is, Terry, briefly, did you find that training to be beneficial?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great,
So,
not only for our meetings, but for how the council's conducting their business. It was useful. It takes an hour and 10 minutes, an hour, a little over an hour.
all right. So I'm hoping that everybody will get that training before our next meeting. Okay. So then moving right along, we're at point number 6, and we were going to be discussing promoting cultural tourism. And who remembers what the difference between the focus of the Arts Commission is versus that of the CED Commission or CED Committee? This is not a rhetorical question.
Well, I thought our focus had to do with the arts.
Yes, and it's got to do with cultural tourism, whereas
Yes.
CED's mission is what?
Any kind of tourism that makes money.
Exactly. It's about money. Yeah. And so that's kind of 2 really different things. And I think it's important for us to keep those in mind as we move into our discussions. Doesn't mean that an arts event couldn't make money. I think that would be great too. But just that is not our primary focus. And I think the reason that I mention that is because I keep on running into challenges with people saying, oh yeah, this will really help the vendors. And that is not heretofore been our focus, which is helping the vendors in, the shopping centers. Plus, I think that the managers of the shopping centers have a lot of influence, and if they're not on board, it doesn't really matter what you do. They have to want to do stuff too. This is a personal opinion. Okay, so in this next discussion, we wanted to talk about some of the, I'd like to see if we could think about ranking some of the ideas that you all had the last few times that we met. And Matt, would you be willing to bring up yeah, you already did. This is the document that came out of everybody's suggestions, short-term and long-term goals. So if there's any way we could kind of try and get a feeling for prioritizing those, or if anything really resonates with somebody that you'd say, oh yeah, let's really focus on this thing. And there will be, of course, continued discussion about this. But I think one of the things we might need to do is think about what kind of baby steps could we take fairly quickly or fairly imminently. And of course, that's all a relative time frame that would be accomplishable.
Well, I'd like to cut the list short by just removing my piece that I wrote about employing a professional to brand our city, because we've done that. The CED committee got that RFP. Canales and Ampersand are going to be busy writing that out for us, so we can scratch that up.
Okay, excellent.
In the spirit of taking things off the list, I actually read the ordinance that set up the Arts Commission, and that was kind of like eye-opening. But my suggestion on there was about having a run that has nothing to do with the arts, so it really does not have a place in here. And also, like CED, I think had an idea about bringing back the donkey trot, or I don't know what it was called, but so that one doesn't really fit in there. That's the second longer term goal there. We could take that out of the running.
Don't mind if I just edit this live as we're going along?
Yay.
That helps that.
Mm-hmm.
Edit it as we go along.
Does everybody have?
Sasha, you're hoping that we can rank these right now?
I was thinking that it might be a great idea if we could do that. Or if at least we could generate some dialogue about what feels like it could be a good approach in the short term. And actually, before we do that, sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Let's let Ruth tell us about what it is that CED has been talking about in that regard, since she's been kind enough to attend their meetings on an ongoing basis.
Oh, yay. This has to do with under longer term goals, art in public places, Hutto, Hippos, Austin Guitars, etc., Sculpture Park, Trail, 2-day art fest kind of thing. In terms of Hutto, Hippos, and Austin Guitars, and I think they have Dolphins down in Corpus Christi, Waco, or no, what's there? Wimberley has boots. Yeah, they have these cowboy boots. CED was talking about commissioning someone to sculpt a donkey of some kind, some caricature of a donkey, and I can't remember the name that starts with an M, and having it made into a fiberglass statue, and then approaching different merchants in our city to say, would you sponsor one of these in front of your business, and you can commission an artist to paint it any way you like. So for example, let's say Total Wine grabbed the idea and they paid the money for the fiberglass statue of the donkey, and they commissioned an artist to paint wine bottles and beer, Pilsner glasses and all that kind of stuff, and their name Total Wine on it, but it was a donkey. I mean, it looked like a donkey, but it had like maybe a Mexican blanket over it with it's a margarita design or something. I'm just coming up with ideas. But anyway, and they can put that in front of their store. And in several places around Sunset Valley, there's the same donkey, but it's decorated differently according to the business commissioned it to be decorated, and it gets posted. So I don't know if you've ever been to Hutto to see their hippo, or you've seen the dolphins down in Corpus Christi, or the guitars that are around Austin painted different ways. But it makes for a fun little icon to take a picture in front of for somebody who's like a tourist or something. And then it'll show up on, it tends to show up on social media when people are visiting someplace, things like that. It just gives and I think we would need to get cooperation with Epperson and Canales to guide us in how to do this. The CED is talking about it. They're the ones who voted, or who narrowed the 11 applications down to Canales and Ampersand, the council voted on. And so that's what they're talking about. So I want to let you all know that, because it kind of jives with what's mentioned here.
Karen?
I don't know.
Just FYI, the Arts Commission quite a few years ago contracted with several artists to do maquettes of the donkey. There's 2 maquettes that are at City Hall, and they're in the cabinet that we contracted with 2 artists to develop for just this project. And we, at that point, had turned it over to CED, but it never went anywhere. So it's not a new idea, and the maquettes are already done. So just FYI.
So we need to figure out, well, I guess since I'm sitting in on both meetings, I can kind of stir up interest in that again. But what do you foresee our part in that? I guess our part's already been done. The artists have been commissioned, the 2 different maquettes are done, and it needs to go forward from there, with CED probably soliciting businesses and getting that rolling, right? Is that what I'm saying?
So I shared a document with Sasha that you guys haven't seen yet, but I did get some research from San Marcos about the mermaids that they did. That was a 2-year project, and the engineering identification of the locations of where those items would go, they have to meet ADA requirements, is the first step. So I sent her a whole packet of what the steps were that San Marcos went through and how much they spent. It was a $70,000 project over 2 years. So Sasha, if you want to share that with the commission, I'm happy for you to do that.
I can do that for sure. But it is interesting because to me, it brings up some of the lack of clarity between the 2 committees, or the commission and the committee, because they've moved in that direction. And yet Karen just did a whole bunch of research in that regard, because we've been talking about art in public places. So I'm not sure how to, address that distinction.
Well, I was going to their next meeting, and I will either make it new business, or I'll get in touch with Penny and get it on the agenda to start getting these 2 groups to see this get going, or at least start cooperating better.
Yeah, and I wonder what money would be available to even do something like that.
They were
Anyway,
talking about getting businesses to pretty much pay for it, but I don't know that businesses are even interested in that right now.
Rob?
From a who's going to do it perspective, like, is this something that, like, I really like the idea, but is this what Arts Commission should do, or does it make more sense over in C? I think it makes more sense probably for us to do it, but like, I don't really care. But like, is this something that we want to actually say, like, no, we want to do this. This is cool. Karen's done a lot of work for it. Or are we fine with letting it go over to CED? Just taking a temperature on that.
Good question.
Thoughts?
I think one of the ways that there could be cooperation is if the Arts Commission handles the whole artistic part of it and development of the maquette into the large scale and finding the artists, and then CED can help with finding the merchants that may want to fund the artists to do the decoration.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they did it in San Marcos.
I like
And-
that.
Yeah, that's great.
So
then
Ruth, is it tomorrow?
we need to find. Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
I'm
Is the meeting
sorry.
tomorrow? When's the meeting for CED?
The next meeting is going to be on, I just talked to Penny. It's going to be on July 29th.
All right.
So if y'all want something, if y'all want them to discuss it, Penny would need to, get that on the agenda. So you'd need to reach out to Penny Seidel to get an item on the agenda, on the CED agenda.
So why don't y'all make a motion of what you would like to see go on their agenda, and I'll contact you because I'm on their list now. I get their emails for agenda, stuff like that. I will try to get it on the agenda.
Rob?
I'd like to make a motion to, okay, here we go, Matt. We're gonna send Ruth to CED and propose that we team up on the maquette.
Yeah.
Yes.
And part of this motion is that CED will work on working with the businesses for funding and location and stuff like that. We'll work on the artistic side to find the artists.
Yeah, I'd like to second that motion. Do we have some discussion further?
Yeah. Rob, were you when you said find the artist, are you saying find, are we still talking about doing the donkey? And
Yeah,
we
so
would we have the two that
right.
nothing was ever done with, and I can't remember why now, because we did our part. We found two sculptors, very well-known ones here in town, but they and they're two very different. I don't know if you remember. One of them is just a donkey, just kind of standing there, and the other one has his head up, and he's kind of braying. And neither one was chosen. Nothing went further. So, and we paid for those maquettes for them to do those. So, are we starting all over? Or are we just trying to see if they
How big
want with one or the other?
Karen said that they're in a cupboard. So I didn't know if those were kind of like example models.
I can go take a picture of them and then put them on the screen if you want. Maybe that.
Yeah, so
They're like, roughly how big are they?
I'll be back.
it's a maquette, so it's a miniature of what the large one would look like. So
Yeah,
the
okay.
Arts Commission would need to pick which one they want to go with, and then we'd need to contact the artist. It was Martha Ripa for one, the braying donkey, and the other one was Bob Coffey. And so then we'd have to contact them about making the large maquette out of those.
Right.
So it's just a process. And, this is going to it'd be a long-term process because there really isn't going to be hot funds to do this for at least a year, maybe 2 years.
John, to your question, I think there might be two artists involved because there is the sculptor, but then there's also the painting of them, which, or are we expecting the sculptors to also paint?
The sculptors would have to give us permission to make them into the enlargements. Then that's a fiberglass process. And then we would then contract with artists. We put out a request for artists to submit to do the design, and then they'd need some funding. I put it all in the packet I sent to Sasha, and she can share that with everybody.
Yeah, so Ruth, you're actually going to be able to go to, if we vote and this passes, you can go bearing gifts and say, like, we've already done 50% of our thing. And by we, I mean Karen. But so I know that feels pretty good that you can offer up like, hey, we've already got to start on this.
And I think that if a business is going to put it in front of their store or wherever, I think they have some say in how it is painted, if I'm not mistaken, in most cities. So it's not like, you know, we have this many and here's how we're going to paint them.
There it is. There it is. There's one of them.
Okay.
Let me see if I can rotate.
We've seen that before. Okay.
I kind of like Bob Coffey's one because it looks more like a real donkey.
Okay, and the next, oh, sorry, he's moving it.
2009 we did these.
I can't rotate these, but let me, hang on.
That's okay, we can see him sideways.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that one fun? Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's the braying one.
I'm just kind of wondering, I agree with you, it looks more, the first one looks more like a donkey, but I'm just like, what's gonna appeal to the public to want to get their picture taken by it? I guess the way it's painted matters. I mean, in some places, they just had them wrapped. You know how they wrap cars? They can come up with some kind of design and wrap the donkey, wrap the shape. But
Well, no, they get painted different because you're trying to make, you know, in trying to get that curvature on wraps is a little tricky when you have to include legs and everything,
Ears and
whatnot. And most of like the guitars, they're all individually designed and decorated,
okay.
painted.
CD's idea is they would go with, you know, showing them the maquette and saying, we want to make this high of a fiberglass statue. You buy it from us for this much. You pay. Here's a list of artists that we know of that would be happy to paint it for you. Contact the one you want and throw a logo of yourself on there if you want. I mean, if you want to show a bunch of, and what I've seen in other cities is they put it in front of, or near these businesses, like in front of the bank. There's a big fiberglass something painted up and it has their bank logo on that side of the boot, like the brand of the boot is the bank. And in front of a restaurant, you know, it would look like Italian because it was an Italian restaurant, or in front of, you know, so the Mexican restaurant would dress it all up like a burro with a Mexican blanket, whatever. And so it would be the same donkey shape in front of various businesses around town, but each one would put their own little take on it. So their thought was the business would provide the cost of making the fiberglass large model and the cost of painting it and installing it. And that
so
would be
I think all of that is work that needs to be done in the planning, and we have plenty of time to do all that. I think the idea is to like, what do you want to focus on? And then let's move forward on that.
okay. So the motion is that I do what?
The motion was, I guess Rob like nominated you, Ruth, to propose CED to team up with the Arts Commission on the donkey, what are we calling this? The donkey statue idea. CED will work with the businesses on funding and locations, and Arts Commission will work on the artistic production, but we already have the donkey designs. I guess Arts Commission would just need to pick which one. Yeah, so that's the motion as it stands.
Could we help resource artists that would be willing to paint, to be commissioned to paint any of these?
That needs to all be put in a plan, and we're not going to be able to.
An RFQ.
You know, you put it out and then artists submit.
Right, but are we willing to recruit the artists if the CED is willing to recruit the businesses to invest in it?
I think that's what the motion is, isn't it?
And I'd probably add, like,
there you go.
We should maybe let CED also have a vote on which one we go with, because it's not very fun to be like, hey, go do the boring businessy stuff. Like, throw them a bone.
You know, and here's the other thing to consider is, do we want to do a donkey? You know, we had these done in '09, and it was when we used to have donkeys at what is now the Verizon and what used to be Samuel's jewelry store. I don't know how many people remember donkeys being a signature for our city. And we are a city that was founded on equine. We might want to think about doing horses instead And then the companies that do these fiberglass panels already have those models. So there's other options.
Ah,
I just sent Matt the presentation I did.
okay, Matt. I gotta see that so I can look it over before I take this to them. Okay. So my basic message is, do you guys want to go forward, probably a 2-year project, to take these maquettes and turn them into a community iconic art installation around the city with cooperation from businesses? With we doing the artistic side, they doing the business side.
I think we're to a vote on that, right?
Yeah, and this is Matt. This is a question, I guess, for Karen and Sylvia, but just thinking about like the logistics of all of this, could the, so we take this idea to CED, we pitch it to them, they discuss it if they want to move forward, and then could there potentially be a joint meeting between the two to really hammer out when we get closer to start hammering out the actual plans? We could call it joint meeting, right? Because that'll just be a lot easier to discuss rather than going back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And Matt, I think you can go to another page. I have some other information on the next page. These are just some other examples. Oh, back up one.
There we go. Giraffes. Let's do giraffes.
But some have been mosaicked.
Nice. I like the horse mosaic.
I know in Lexington, when I was up there, every corner had a thoroughbred, and one was really cool. It was all done in mirrors. And another one was done psychedelic, like one of the old Flower Power Volkswagens you see. So it was really cool. They were really nicely done. It was different artists that were commissioned to do it. It was like there was 25 of them, and they were really cool. And they had them in all over the city.
I guess if we put donkeys everywhere, everyone would assume we're Democrats.
I may interject something.
You know what, that's was one of the things that was brought up about using the donkey from different people. And also, like Karen said, a lot of the older Austin people remember when the Weaver house and barn was a working farm, and there were donkeys out there. But there's been so many people that have moved here now, and even into Sunset Valley, that don't remember all that.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should search a bit.
You can go back up, Matt, to the detail. Because it's going to take some work to put the project together.
Yeah. Let Miles talk.
I'd like to say that maybe it's a good idea to get the ball rolling, to get conversations going, reaching out to CED and otherwise. But I think there are a lot of other things happening coincidentally or coming down the pike that could really affect this program and move it in a different direction. And that is one, you have the branding and the marketing campaign in the city. Two, you also have the banner program, which has been suggested to not only go along the thoroughfare of Brody Lane, but possibly be moved into the area of the shopping centers and have awnings and things that would match that too. So you have a whole bunch of things that are involved, a lot of different parties, and you want some sort of consistency between them. You don't want anything to fight each other. So in summation, I think it's great to talk about this and because things take such a long time and to reach out, but certainly can't make any decisions now about donkeys versus giraffes or anything else like that. But because it takes so long, I think it's a good idea to start some sort of formal communication with CED and just to get some ideas germinating on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. It should be coordinated.
Too, yeah.
It should be coordinated too with our marketing company.
Absolutely.
It's a long-term project.
Yeah.
So just going back to the motion, Ruth, so originally, it was Rob's motion, so I put donkey maquettes, but should we change it just to, what is this project called? Like art sculpture project? What is? What is the temporary name for this
Places.
project?
I think mascot maybe, or something along that line. Because a lot of these
Good one.
towns, they have like the ones that are on the coast, a lot of them have the mermaid or whatever. And the only reason we had the donkey was because people remembered them. So
It's like a
what's a
fiberglass.
better word?
Yeah, fiberglass art installations.
Fiberglass topiary.
Um,
Mascot's a good thought, though. That's a good word. I like that.
Okay, fiberglass art installations.
Or similar. Give yourself some flexibility.
Yeah, fiberglass type.
identifying
You ready to vote?
It's also a photo op type of thing. We just need
Yeah.
some wording here just to get it on paper and get it happening, right?
yes.
All right, so the motion is that, well, I guess I can't restate the motion myself, but I think we need to vote on whether we would like to have Ruth communicate with the CED committee about our portion of this task, which has to do with defining the art and defining the art that would be used, and then that the CED committee would work on defining who to sell it to and get to paint it, et cetera, et cetera. Is that right?
No, I think the artist selection for painting would be part of the Arts Commission project.
Yes, although we'd have to obviously have some dialogue with the stores if the stores are funding it.
Yep.
And they want to have, their margarita hats on or whatever.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
The funder would certainly be able to have input.
Yeah.
But that's all long, down the road, working out.
So does the original motion stand, or has it morphed enough that it doesn't stand the way it was anymore?
I think most of the conversation was what Ruth is going to talk to CED about. But the overall, like the original motion, I think was like Ruth's going to go to CED and propose like teamwork on this project. We do the artist side. They do kind of like the more commercial side of it.
Good.
Okay, so
So-
yes, Rob, that's the amended motion, and Sasha, you were the second. So are you okay with that?
I am
Amended.
okay with that friendly amendment.
There we go.
Okay, so I guess we are in a position to vote at this point. All in favor of that motion, raise your hand so we can see it.
Terry's not on video.
Oh,
My
yeah.
hand's
Terry.
raised. My hand's raised.
All right, everyone, all in favor, motion passes.
Aye. Aye.
Yay. Very good. Now, our time is getting, and I do apologize for not sending out this project. I didn't know if it was premature for me to send out, and that's why I didn't send it. But I was excited by it. But since it was a kind of long-term project, I thought, well, let's keep that in our long-term list. I do know that one other thing that happened and that I would like to spend, well, I'm not even sure. John very kindly last time at our last meeting had brought along data on doing a city lighting, a city hall lighting, as it were, for Sunset Valley for Christmas. And it looks like that would be something that would be happening not this Christmas, but next Christmas. And so I guess that is kind of short term in some way.
It'll be this Christmas. Right?
It's going to depend on the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to really get some money to be able to
Well,
do it.
James and I met with ABC, and he gave us a breakdown of doing almost like, as it turns out, almost like our bronze, silver, and gold version of that. And and he sent, I don't know if I could,
She's got it.
who has it?
Matt's got the.
Oh, Matt has that?
Mhm.
Yeah. The pictures?
Yes.
I don't think I have the pictures. I just
Oh.
have the, it's like the bid or the,
Oh, okay,
Oh,
all right.
or the pictures on here. No, yeah, I don't have the pictures.
Okay, well, I can maybe hold these up to the camera. So basically, can you guys see this at all?
Yeah.
That's Public Works, and it's basically putting lighting around the fascia, around the building. That's around the fascia of the. So that's Public Works. Okay, this is this, the police department putting, you see the pink lines? That's the fascias again, and a kind of a mini version
No,
of,
that's the tree. See,
kind of-
they're looking at the tree.
kind of a mini version of the tree. Kind of like a mini version of the city of Austin's lighted tree out there on the grass between City Hall and Public Works. It'd be a 40-foot pole with strings of lights making a kind of a cone shape. Then, and then this would have been the City Hall fascias and everything. So basically lighting up the fronts of all three buildings and then putting this out on the grass. The total for doing all of that ended up being $12,000. And we would own the lights, and that includes them, supplying the lights and installing and then taking them down. So for that, that's the 12,000. But then, and we own the lights, the pole and everything. But then the next year, when they come out, it's only, it's like less than half that. It's kind of like they want a contract to keep doing it. So that would be just kind of lighting up the area that you would see as you're going around our little
Sleeping policeman.
the sleeping policeman in front of City Hall, just to kind of brighten things up for the holiday season. If we were to, let's say, just do the tree by itself and
Who's doing this? Who's talking?
and then City Hall, that would take us a little bit over the silver. We would need to try to get a couple $1,000s from the mayor's budget to do just City Hall and this tree, forgetting Public Works and PD, because we definitely don't have the 12,000, it doesn't seem like.
And this is something that would come from general funds.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I saw Rob's hand and then Miles. Rob's?
I think I saw this in CED's budget proposal, right? Get something.
Theirs really has to do with the shopping center. They want to do something over there, which means coordinating with the managements.
And it's from hot funds.
And that, yeah, theirs is hot funds.
Okay. I'm willing to hear both sides of this, but is this artsy? You know?
No.
Well, lighting, yeah. I mean, the thing is, our city hall is closed down right now. It's just a dead hole at night, except for some of the, security lighting. And so many of the other little towns around here, they light up their courthouses and their town squares and all of this stuff, to get. And so it's just I was thinking maybe even having a banner out there on that brick monstrosity that's out in front of City Hall. It's belongs to AT&T. It just has something about visit our shopping center kind of thing. I don't know. It's just a way to kind of brighten not only for the residents, but people that come into Sunset Valley. That's all.
Is this really the right place to put it? What's the traffic pattern along James Jones Road? And if it really is supposed to see the people coming into Sunset Valley, is it more towards Brody? So what's really the purpose of it? Plus, also, you have an Old Town versus New Town proximity. I mean, there are going to be people who live in places other than Old Town and not quite have quite that type of engagement with it. What really is the?
I think that Jones is really our city for all parts of the town, between Brody and, say, going to the theaters or going to Central Market or whatever. And it's the school. I mean, it's a very busy city, and it's our city hall. It's kind of right in the middle of everything.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like a town center, like in Georgetown or some other places. It feels sort of on the side.
Well, no, I mean, Georgetown, that's a town square with a beautiful courthouse in the middle. So we don't have that. I mean,
Okay, so this,
maybe if we're going to spend the money. Sorry, Ruth, go ahead. Ruth,
I just wanted to ask a question about the money. So right now, the budgets that we presented to the Business and Finance, Budget and Finance Committee does not include money for any of these decorating stuff that we're looking at right now. We would have to go find the money if we're going to do it this Christmas, or work towards putting it in the budget for next Christmas and getting it into that budget, or where does that stand budget-wise?
Well, what I was seeing is that this is just a minimal thing to do something a little festive, okay? Then next year, we wrap all of our light poles, and we have banners hanging down. We have more lighting, bringing people down all the way to Jones, and then all the light poles on Ernest Robles, and do more off of Brody. It would be something. We can't afford that right now. This is just something to, I don't know, just people are depressed. They've been in their homes for 4 months.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how we
to brighten things up a bit. That's all.
It would be out of general fund budget. If you got gold approved or silver approved, you could do parts of this.
Yeah, it would be for
bronze. We're not approved, but we've gotten blessing on our bronze version, and that doesn't include this. So are we saying we want to try to petition the mayor and the council to do this Christmas thing, therefore do our silver or gold? Or are we just going to focus on the Art Fest pitch?
So council, budget and finance has not heard the general fund request yet at all.
Okay.
Really?
So if we've already submitted those to them, we can't change them at this point, because I know we had a deadline and we voted on stuff last week.
Yeah, it's been submitted. Matt had it up earlier. They just haven't reviewed the general fund. They only did the hot fund so far.
Yeah, this is Terry.
Okay, and so right now, no holiday decor in the bronze general, some in the silver general, and a bunch in the gold general is what we've given them.
Okay, Matt just put it up on the screen. This would be our silver.
Okay,
Uh,
so that's my question.
We would have enough to do just the tree with this 4,000, with some left over. Or we could, by adding a couple of thousand to that, we could do this front of the city hall and the tree. Or we could do just the tree, and then we could, I don't know, put other lights around the entrance to the city.
I guess what I'm getting at is I'm trying to figure out what the action item needs to be for this, what the motion needs to be. If we've already decided as a commission what our budgets are to be presented to the Business and Finance Committee for general funds, and we've already voted now that we're going to push ArtFest, if this is already in those budgets, what action are we looking for right now? I'm confused.
Now, this is one of our short-term possibilities. We need to discuss the others. This is just one. I had heard from other people too about how come other cities have a little, have lights around their city halls and things, a little brighter. That's just come up to me in the past, and I was just thinking this might be a possibility. But I like some of the other short-term things that are on this list as well. So,
Okay.
So
probably cheaper.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I wasn't
okay,
acknowledged.
there were two things I wanted to just say. I think that I heard Terry trying to make a comment.
Yes, I would like to see other things on the short-term list before we talk further about this particular project.
Okay.
Because I'm just coming out of the Budget and Finance Committee and aware of that the pandemic is kind of almost spinning out of control now, and also aware that lighting up municipal buildings may not be a high priority at this time. And then also picking up on Robert Johnson, as nice an idea as it is. And then I really don't see the art part of this. So I'd like to see the other projects before we move further on this one.
So I'd like to make a suggestion here because it seems like this is it's a discussion that needs to continue. But I'd really like to see a subgroup working on it, or a mini group, not the whole committee, and looking at the various ideas and coming back with a recommendation about two that could be pursued. Would I have some volunteers for that?
Okay.
Thank you. And
No
John,
problem.
okay, John, that's great. Anybody else? Joe, are you holding up your hand?
Yeah, to knock. I think that's a bid.
Hey, Joe.
Come on, Joe.
You could do it.
I'm sorry, I was
You want to
looking.
be on a team with Rob and John to pursue further the idea of decorating.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all the short-term ideas. Okay, great. So what we're going to do then is we'll plan on if we could get you guys to get together sometime in the next 2 weeks or so, and then be ready to report back to us about your recommendations and things that we'd like to see them prioritized before the next meeting so that we can then discuss them at the next meeting. Will that work out okay?
Do we need a motion or a vote in order to create a subgroup like that, or is it just, that's what we're gonna do?
You need a motion.
Yeah, so I guess I can say I'd like to motion that we have a subgroup of John and Joe and Rob to look further at the short-term ideas and come back to the committee at the next meeting with some thoughts on that.
I can second that, Matt. That's Rob.
You seconded
Okay,
it?
we've got a second.
Also,
I have a point of information. The decorating the city hall was on the long-term side of the paper, not on the short-term. If this group is to only look at short-term, then we need to make sure they know that that's in their consideration.
Okay,
So we can move that to the short
Yeah,
term.
short term.
because it
Okay,
can be done in pieces.
excellent. Thank you, Ruth, for pointing that out. So any further discussion, Sasha says, hopefully, on this topic? No?
It was,
All right. Well, all in favor of that motion? Aye. If you could raise your hand. Okay, Terry, I heard you. Rob? Miles?
Okay,
Okay. Ruth and Joe? Okay. And John?
Aye.
All right.
Okay,
And me
motion
too.
passed.
Great. Thank you. I'm not trying, I really don't want to ignore these good ideas. I just want to, I think they may be easier to discuss in a smaller group and come back with them.
And I'll email to that subgroup. I'll email that I've been updating the list as we've gone along. So I'll email the subgroup the list of the short-term ideas.
Excellent. Okay.
You rock, Matt.
Yes, you do. Indeed, indeed. All right. So the last thing we need to discuss is and by the way, thank you again, John, for having done that work. And Sylvia, I believe you were involved too. And I think, oh yeah, James. So thank you. So the last thing we needed to discuss is that, and actually there's a mistake in the agenda because it should say request for qualifications, not request for proposals. But if we are going to need assistance in the execution of the Arts Fest, for example, we are going to need to have to describe what it is that we would like to have happen. And I'm not sure that we could do all of that right at this moment. Matt put some samples of RFPs in, but the thing is, as you all probably remember from watching the whole CED process, it takes quite a while to get an RFP up and going. And so we would, need not to put this too far back on the burner. So the concept here was to just look at a couple of RFPs and hopefully we could get a couple of RFQs. Sylvia, do you think that's possible? Okay. And look at those and see if we can begin to build our list of our requirements for assistance in this regard. And we can look at our previous list of requirements as well. But as you all know, that has actually been in existence for many years without really updating, as far as I know, other than, no, we've had to update things that had to do with security and the police requirements and, dealing with capacities and permits and all those kinds of things.
What I would ask for the commission to do is get a comprehensive list of everything you absolutely need, and then also things that you would like, but definitely things that you need so we can begin to craft that.
So you would craft it? Sylvia, you would craft the
I would bring a draft to the committee, to the commission, and then you guys will manipulate it.
Okay. So what you would like from is a list of what it is that we absolutely would need. And then otherwise a list of what we would desire as well.
Yes, exactly. What is the expectation of a vendor who's going to put on ArtFest 2021? What is it that absolutely needs to be in the contract? What are you expecting them to deliver, and at what price point?
Okay.
So it's a proposal then?
I'm sorry.
I guess I don't, request for qualifications would be.
Oh, well, that was just because we don't really have numbers for saying, well, this is what we could pay for that at this point. So
Oh, I
we'd want
see.
to begin the work on our list of what our preferred things would be. And then we can talk about funding as we get closer to that, if we do. And that actually brings up one other question that's a little bit of an aside, but it's for you, Sylvia. And that is, do we know that if we, and I think this is important for what we say to the mayor and to the council, do we know if we are able to get event insurance?
I would absolutely encourage event insurance. If you've never done it before, that needs to be a standard policy.
And would that be incumbent on us to pay for, or would it be something out of city budgeting?
It's going to be incorporated into your budget. The city will be additionally insured. You're an agent of the city. I'll look at that. I mean, we could do it a couple of ways. It could be in the contract of the producer, or it could be in the city's overall umbrella, but definitely event insurance is necessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I wouldn't even really want to propose a budget for more to the mayor or the council without knowing that that would be one of the conditions that we would do this under. Okay. So what have,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I just have a point of information then. So what you're looking from us is a punch list of saying we absolutely need their references, their past clientele, their leadership team qualifications, their insurance information, like that. And we desire that they also give us this, like, well, what else would there be? Their current subcontractor list or something like that. I mean, so you just want a list. You don't need us to provide any language. You just want a list of subject matter you want to see put in that RFQ or RFP, right?
I do, but I also want the production company is expected to organize, they're expected to deliver, they're expected to be on site, they're expected to check in, they're expected to provide updates, they're expected to balance a budget, submit reports, those kinds of things. Exactly what, and you guys have a good rapport with your prior folks, so you know what you need, and it kind of goes like a well-oiled machine. We just need to frame that so that we make sure that those, you may have had a very good vendor that it wasn't listed in the contract and you just happen to have the luck of the draw and that vendor did really well for you. But a new vendor may not do that. And if it's not explicitly stated in the contract, you won't get it.
And we actually have that in the budget proposal that we put in for the 2019 Art Fest. In a proposal, it has the whole task list and the timing of everything that vendor did for us. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay,
I would
good.
say look at that and then update what you want to add to that, because that's pretty much the contract.
Good, okay. And that was in last year's budget submittal?
Yes, for the 2019 one that got canceled.
Okay.
And it's all in great detail with the media list and everything.
Okay.
So Karen, this is Matt. So that could be like a starting point for Sylvia and I, like for drafting this RFQ or proposal or whatever it's going to look like. And then maybe next time we have like a rough draft and then the commission starts kind of looking at it more in detail, possibly.
Yeah, I would think that would be a good starting place, or you could send that out to all of the commission members, and if they have anything that they want to make sure gets included before you bring a draft back, you could do it that way too. I can send you the specific pages if you want.
Great, cool.
Yeah, let's do that approach, because I'm sure different individuals have different points of focus, you know. And one of the things that I guess we'd need to have answered about that, if we were operating, for example, at a silver level budget, would, for example, the requirements that the police department currently has of us be the same? And also, if we change the location, you know, would they be the same? Because those things all, that costs, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece to consider. John, your hand up.
Oh, I was just going to ask Sylvia, is the event insurance, wouldn't that be, is that something that these that production companies normally have, or does that come from the city getting that? Because we already have our liability insurance.
It would be a rider.
We just, it'd be a rider then for, or isn't it usually the city that does the
It could be either way. It could be dependent on how you write your contract. It could be something that the producer is required to get, or it's just something that's separate on the city's liability, on the city's policies.
so we're not putting that in the RFQ then?
That's dependent on you guys. If you want the production company to carry event insurance where you are the additionally insured,
That's to be determined.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I know,
Okay,
I don't have any idea what that costs. Hello?
Well, I'm sure the prices have gone up significantly since COVID. No, the events have canceled since COVID.
Well, that's, you know, I think one reason to, I don't know if the city would have the budget to cover it, but it's a good critical question to be asking.
And Sylvia, I think if you could get us an idea what a rider would cost on the city's umbrella, that would give the commission a good idea of which way to go.
I know a person that sells the weirdest obscure insurance.
Good, perfect.
When Joe and I had our reception at the University of Texas, the Under the Oaks Cafe was where we had it at the Thompson Conference Center. They required that we purchase event insurance. And so I looked into our house insurance because that's liability. It's got a general liability on it. And to add it was like twice the cost of going with this obscure, never heard of insurance company that does event insurance on. I mean, they do everything from you're doing an air show to you're doing balloon animals on the street corner. I mean, they do all, it's crazy to read their website rates of insurances. It's like, you know, you're going for Guinness World Records of blowing bubbles on the 13th. We'll insure that event. It's crazy. But yeah, they were the price of the rider. So we insured our reception. Of course, we had no claims, but it was required, so we got it. I think it was like
You'd be amazed at what they insure.
It's bizarre. It's all about risk management and gambling, if you ask me.
That's insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have ascertained that the steps will be that we'll send you the list from the vendor we've used in the past. You will draft up something and then we will go back to that something and fill it out in more detail.
Yes, work out the kinks.
Okay, so that we would put under an action somewhere, an action on our agenda item.
Yeah, to be brought back for the next agenda.
Yes.
Does there have to be a motion for that, or?
That's a staff assignment.
Cool, okay.
Yay, yay. Okay. All right.
Before we get off that subject, I just want to applaud Sylvia and Matt. I actually read both of the proposals. I don't know where you got them up from, but they were great examples and they gave a lot of good ideas that we needed to event meeting. So good job finding them and getting to us.
Are we talking, I didn't, because you were cutting in and out, are you saying that you like the structure that they've proposed here?
Well, they brought us one from a city in Florida that is doing
Okay,
an
yeah.
party and for the community and what their proposal was, and then one for a city in Georgia who does a monthly arty event, and they hire someone to manage and organize that every month for them. And it was just really good because the Georgia one was super legalese and detailed, but still left no stone unturned, and that was good to look at. And then there was a real simplified one for this annual July 4th one for another city, and it was just really neat to look at them just to see what we're up for.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Those
Yes,
were
thank you. Thank you for finding those for us. Yes. Okay, well, guess what? It is 7:54. In a minute, we're going to adjourn, but I wanted to just, congratulate you all for sticking with and riding through this process. I hope you feel accomplished. And I would also just tell you how much I appreciate the work you continue to do. And are there any final thoughts from anybody about things we need to be attentive to or for the good of the community before we get a motion to adjourn? Yes,
Can I
Sylvia.
just say, if there are items that you guys want to put on quote unquote the parking lot, because you're gonna want the mayor to have discussion or consider them, if you would please send them to me as close to the 12th as possible, because what we're going to do is sit down with the budget and these parking lot items completely and just go through what can potentially be funded. And then it'll allow me to also put a comprehensive list together for the council.
I'm not, let's see, I guess I'm not understanding.
parking lot was Matt's list for our future discussions in our agendas.
Yeah, because I know you guys are you're gonna press for more than the bronze budget. You're gonna press for the gold budget. So that's going to be an item, and I'm gonna put a dollar figure to that. The difference between your bronze and your gold, I'm gonna put a dollar figure to that. Anything else that you're considering, whether it's the holiday lighting, whether it's, whatever it is that you're considering between now and the 12th that you're bantering around as a commission, if you would please at least give Matt and I an idea so that we can begin to craft the list of things that are going to be sitting out there for the mayor to be considering.
Okay, because you're talking about something a little bit different than what we had in mind for the parking lot. But I think I understand that you're saying that any ideas that we come up with between now and then you'd like to be advised about.
Yeah, I think Sylvia was referring
a number to things.
Sylvia was referring to the budget finance parking lot where items.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she meant that kind of parking lot, not the Arts Commission specific.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we were talking about, good ideas that shouldn't get lost, that can't be discussed now, but that need to be.
Oh, okay. No, I'm talking budget ideas.
Okay.
And
Good.
just one more reminder that the next Arts Commission meeting, the regular meeting, would be Wednesday, August 19th. So that's 1 week after the mayor submits her official budget. So we'll actually have real numbers for what the mayor submitted, and then the commission can strategize even more how they move forward. So
what you're saying is we have to decide what those items are for Sylvia before we meet again.
Right. Well, I think the commission decided to strategize on strategize on getting the gold level funded for Art Fest and not worry about the general.
Not very little detailed string.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So Matt, I have a parking list item for the
I'm listening.
commission agenda parking list. It's short. Miles had brought up, and I'm ignorant as to the existence of it today, but do we have a registry or database or list of all the citizens in Sunset Valley that are either performing artists or visual artists? And if we don't,
I am not aware. What?
to brainstorm how we might could, because it would be really good for us to know our artistic talent among our citizens. Should we ever want to maybe ask SFC, could you maybe, since we're paying for it, every 3 months put in one of our Sunset Valley performing artists in your market or anything like that? Or if we need a visual artist for something, we have a list of people within our city that we could resource for those things. Because I noticed in one of those requests for proposals, one of the cities said, we encourage you as much as possible to source your subcontractors from people within our city limits. And, you know, if it came to needing artsy stuff, then it would be great if they used our citizens versus anywhere else.
Yeah, Ruth and Madam Chairman, it's Terry. There's a group of private citizens that are working at this time on creating an artist registry for Sunset Valley. And I'll get back to you guys. And we're thinking that it may be easier to do it if we don't have to deal with the constraints that come with working through the government. So right now it's a private sector approach. All right, I'll get back with you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Any other, oh, well, I guess we need to, any other commentaries before we have a motion to adjourn? Sounds good. Well, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, Joe. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
There you
Oh,
go,
thank you, Miles. All right. Well, all in favor?
Hi.
Thank you all for being here and for working through this well. And thank you, Sylvia and Matt, for your time and attention as well.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody.